Hi guys, I'm back for day 3 of my series, Loving Those Who Are Unlovable. For those of you that are just joining, I have my videos that I took from after the lives were completed, and I put them on my YouTube channel, and you can go over there on Plumline Productions and you can review those as well. Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. I'm doing a study of the book of Hosea in a series called Loving Those Who Are Unlovable. So if you want to participate and listen in, you're more than welcome to. I will preface this by saying that there are some words in the chapter that could be considered a little seedy. I am going to try to change some of those words just so that I can keep it a little cleaner. But this is an 18 and above reading, not psychic reading, but reading of the Bible. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. Well, I actually have a question. Are you from? I think you mean where am I from, but I'm from Georgia. But anyways, okay. So chapter 2 of Hosea, Loving the Unlovable. Hi, great. How are you? I thought you were going to be taking a nap. Anywho, so just briefly before we begin, Hosea is a book in the Bible that is about God's love for a wayward people. And we know that today there are a lot of people who are in the church or have left the church, maybe even people in the world that a lot of people would either think for themselves or think of those people that they're not worthy of God's love. And I know for a season I felt that I wasn't worthy of God's love. I covered that in some previous videos. So again, if you want to visit those videos on my YouTube channel, Plumline Production, then I have those over there as well. I give a little bit of a testimony, some experience where I was unlovable and where I learned to love the unlovable. So yeah. Okay. So in chapter 1 in Hosea, we covered where God told Hosea to go and take a wife that was wayward, that he was told that she would be adulterous, that she would not be faithful to him. And this was a lot of times in the prophetic world, there are prophets that have what are called prophetic gestures. A lot of their life is a prophetic gesture. And those things happen to prophets so that God can show those prophets his heart for his people. It's not just about the prophet. It's about a bigger thing that God wants to do in his earth, in his kingdom, and in his people. And so, this story is a beautiful story about how even if you've done something that you feel that God wouldn't take you back, or you feel that your husband or spouse wouldn't take you back, or that your family members wouldn't take you back, or your friends wouldn't take you back, then this is just a great picture of if we commit adultery on our first love, which for those of us who are in God's kingdom, it is our God. A lot of us don't know that we are created by God for him. And so, if you don't know that you are a child of God, if you don't know that you belong to him, then you wouldn't know that he's your first love. But I will say that when I turned to him and I accepted his son, I experienced the greatest love I've ever known. And so he is my first love. And because I know what love looks like and feels like, it makes it, I have a better picture of loving other people. And so going into chapter 2 now. So I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna try to replace some of those words. Some of it might end up being funny when I replace those words because I don't know what else to replace it with. But I definitely don't want those words to be a stumbling block to people. All right, so this chapter 2 says, "Say ye unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Rahama." And we covered this in chapter 1, that lo Ami meant not loved, and lo Rahama meant not my people. And so now God is telling Hosea to say to his brothers and sisters, Ami and Rahama. So now I'm going to call you my people, and I'm going to call you loved. And this is like, there's nothing that Israel or Gomer has done that deserves being redeemed. So it says, "Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away from her waywardness out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her tatas. Lest I strip her bare, and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst." So God is saying to Hosea to tell these people, I'm still calling you mine. I want you back, but I'm telling you, if you don't come back, this is what's going to happen to you when you are out in the wilderness. So whenever we turn from God, he says that he resists the proud. And so there is a time where when we are stepping out on our relationship with him, that we end up in our own wilderness. And sometimes that can look like isolation. Sometimes that can look like I'm now being forced to move and I've lost my job. Maybe that means that I am going through a separation. Maybe that means that you've got a sickness or you've got issues with your finances. It can be different for everybody because we all have our own ways that God knows that we need discipline. So it says, "And I will not have mercy upon her children, and they be the children of waywardness. For their mother hath played the harlot, she hath conceived them. She that conceived them hath done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, mine oil and my drink." This is really important because there are a lot of people that choose to go after other things instead of God because, maybe there's quicker and faster finances. Maybe there's a better job. Maybe there's a prettier wife. Maybe there's, whatever the case may be. And so a lot of times people of God would go after these other things or go live in these other places because maybe they had better land or they had better merchandising or they could get away with what they were doing. And usually when you're someone that God has called, there is a season in your life that you look destitute. You might look foolish. You might look crazy. You might look like a homeless person or, so that's not really appealing. I could tell you from my own life example that, when I went through my transformation, there was a time of reaping the harvest that I had sown as a wayward woman, as someone who wasn't with Jesus. And so that was a very hard season. But during that, God was gracious. He was merciful to me. He turned his face toward me at times and he spoke sweetly to me. And so, I will say that times with the people of God, especially like prophetic people. It's a very lonely and awkward life, but there are really, really good moments in there too. There's closeness. And so, going back to the scripture, he's basically saying, you need to stop going after those things. Those things are not going to satiate you. They're not going to make sure that you have salvation, and they're not going to provide the love that I can provide for you. They're just material. In lots of places in the Bible, God calls material things just dead idols. So, okay, so going forward, verse 4 says, "Therefore, behold, I will hedge up thy way with thorns and make a wall that she shall not find her paths." So there does come a point where God becomes so jealous of us, and not jealousy in the world's way. Jealousy in the world's way is, I want you for myself because I don't want someone else to have you. It's a very selfish motivation. But God's jealousy is, I want you for me because I know they're going to hurt you, and I can make sure that you stay safe. I can make sure that you have everything that you need. You won't do the things that maybe you have to do to feel loved, or compromise yourself in order to feel loved. And so he's basically saying, I'm going to make things very difficult for you. There's going to come, it's going to be very difficult for you to find love. It's going to be difficult for you to have love. It's going to be difficult for you just in your life. I'm going to fill your life with thorns, and I'm going to close up all of your ways, and I'm going to build up walls so that you can't find anything else. You have no choice but to come to me. And a lot of people could think, well, that's very narcissistic. We have people who are like that. They cut things off. They cut people off because they just want us to be for themselves. But I think of this, if you understand the heart of God, then you know that he wants to make things difficult for you when you're going in the right direction, so that you will turn around and, when you're going in the wrong direction, so that you'll turn around and go in the right direction, and which ultimately leads to life. And so then it says, "And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them, and she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now." So here it is. The Lord is telling Hosea, and he's experiencing this with his own wife, but he's experiencing this because this is going on with a wayward Israel. And so ultimately he's saying, I'm going to make it difficult for my people to go after the things that keep them from coming back to me. I'm going to make it difficult. And so when we're talking about this in the context of adultery, or, going after waywardness and other lovers than our husband or our first love, he's basically saying that there's going to come a time where you're not even going to be able to get any of them. I think about when I was a wayward woman. I was younger, and, you can revisit a little bit of why I became wayward in my previous stories, but it was very much I was very codependent, and I had to have a man all the time. And it wasn't like daily or weekly. I had long relationships, and sometimes I didn't have long relationships, or I would have one before I was done with the next one. And it's just because I didn't know my worth. I didn't know that I could be okay being alone. And so there did come a time for me that the Lord made it to where nobody was interested. Nobody was taken. He would frustrate all my plans, places that I could go, numbers that I could call, he literally just shut everything off. And I'm so glad that he did that, because it literally just brought me to a place where now I had to start reflecting on myself. I had to start realizing that I was going after people and other things that at the end of everything, I was going to be worse off than I was before, and I was going to hurt other people in the process. I wasn't intentionally like a hurtful person, but because I just had so many walls, and because I just got to the point where I would burn the bridge, it became very toxic. And I would usually be the one to leave first so that I wouldn't feel rejected. So here it is, like in the scripture, God is saying that you might look for them, but you're not going to be able to find them. You're not going to be able to overtake them. And then you're going to come to a point where you realize you don't have what you need. And now you have no choice but to come back to me as your husband, as your God, as your first love. And so then it goes on to say, for she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. So there is a misunderstanding, because we're taught traditions. We're taught the ways of the world. We're taught that you can only get what you need if you have money or connections or, someone there to provide for you. And so, go on to say that he's the one that provides. That's been very helpful for me, because I don't look to anyone else to be my provision. I know that God is my provider. When I have had work, I knew that it was always God that gave that to me. And I was thankful for the people that he used, to help me in that career. Or I think about how, there would be jobs that I would get. And so anyways, I'm addressing a question here from Clara Beth Marie Lawson. You have a question. When are you expecting? I'm not pregnant. So, I'm not expecting anytime soon. So, okay. So going forward, it says, therefore will I return and take away my corn at the time thereof, and my wine in the season thereof, and will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her bareness. And so he's just saying, you were looking for that for somewhere else. So I'm going to take all that from you, because I am the provider. And because you're looking to someone else to be that person, or someone else is taking that credit, I'm going to go ahead and take it from you so that you know that it was ultimately me. All right. Then it says, therefore will I return. Oh, I'm sorry. It says, and now will I discover her bareness in the sight of her lovers, and none shall deliver her out of my hand. So this is a type of embarrassment. I can say that there are times where when I was adulterous, or when I was promiscuous, that there came a point where it was very hard for me to be in my bareness. And it was almost like when Adam and Eve had sinned in the garden, and they didn't know before they had eaten of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that they were naked, but now they did. And it was like that. And because I had started becoming aware of myself in a way that I didn't care before, it became very difficult for me to even want to do any of those things, because in order to do those things, you have to become bare. And I knew that the Lord was doing that for me, but that's what he's saying here, is he's going to make it so uncomfortable for you to participate in those things. And he's not doing it because he wants to embarrass you. He doesn't want to hurt you. He's doing them to bring you to a place where you see that no matter what I do, that's not going to fulfill me. It's not going to give me what I need. And with hopes that we turn and we go back to the Lord, or to our husband, or our family, or whatever the case is. And so then it goes on to say, I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all of her solemn feasts. This represents celebration, happiness, joy, So all of those things are being taken. There's nothing joyful when you realize that you're unloved, you're unwanted, that you are unable to be provided for, when the things that you relied on to get you what you needed, like your looks, or the what do they call it, like whatever you do with your eyelashes, the flattery or whatever with your eyelashes. I don't even remember, but those things no longer work. And then it says, and I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she hath said, these are my rewards that my lovers have given me, and I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. So the Lord is saying, everything that you got, everything that you cultivated because of your waywardness, I'm going to just give it over. It's going to be destroyed. That's really what happened to me. That, like, I literally was stripped of everything. And even though it was hard, it was good. I know that I'm grateful that he did that, because I know something now that I have never known before. And, I know patience and love, and I know what it's like to not be alone when I'm alone. Like, he's always there with me. Whenever I was messy, he delighted to ride along. When, I had something to say and no one else wanted to hear it, he loved to listen. And so it was really good. But then he says, and I will visit upon her the days of Baalim, wherein she burned incense to them, and she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and then went after her lovers and forgot me, saith the Lord. So I'm going to cause her to go through a little season of reaping. Like, all of the waywardness that you did and the things that you did to hurt my other people, you're going to experience some consequence. It won't be as bad as it should be. That's why God is so merciful. And obviously we go through a lot of that because that's just the way the universal law works. My mom always taught me the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like, if I didn't want it done to me, I wouldn't do it to others. At least not intentionally. I was never intentionally malicious. I never, did things intentionally to hurt people. There were people that were hurt by me, but that was through wrong thinkings, wrong behaviors, hurt places, things like that. But there was definitely reaping for me, and God was still there with me while I went through it all. And so it says, therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. And so this is what I was saying about how he was with me, because the ultimate goal is to get us to turn from our waywardness and come back to him. He's saying, now I will allure her. And that word allure is to entice, or to almost, I always think about like fishing, like with a lure, like alluring her. There's something about him that draws her back into him. And he says, I'll speak comfortably to her. No matter what she's going through, no matter what she's done, I'm not going to visit her with shame. I'm not going to make her feel bad for what she did. I could, but usually when people are going through things like that, they're runners. And so, God is saying, I'll make it to where you don't feel like you have to run. I'll respect you. I'll love you. I'll comfort you. I'll say the things that, I need to say, not being fake, but saying the things that need to be said to let her know that she's loved. Like, hey, I'm so glad to see you. Or, like, you look really pretty today. Things like that. Like, put yourself in the place of if you're a spouse, or you're a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or, maybe you're even someone who is taking in someone who has dealt with these things, just encouraging them in ways and not kicking them while they're down. And I could say that from experience because I was kicked while I was down. And the only one who was speaking comfortably to me was God. That was it. And so then it says, and I will give her vineyards from thence and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. So the valley of Achor was kind of where trash was thrown during the time. And so he's saying like where you were once detestable, where you once were in a place that nobody wanted to like be around you, like you just carried a stench with you. I'm going to now turn those places, turn those memories, turn that life that you went through into something now that you see as hope for you, that you are redeemed, that you can live a better life. And then it says, and it shall be in the day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Bali. Now, Ishi means husband, and Bali means master. So he's saying you're no longer going to see me from the place of being a slave. You're going to see me from the place of being a bride. Like sometimes we can look at people that come into our lives as being like a bane, like I don't really like you. I don't really know why you're here. And then there comes a time where your heart changes and you see that maybe you got them wrong. And now you realize, hey, wait a minute, like this is a good thing. I can think about that with my husband, David. I mean, I covered that in previous videos where I only saw him as a friend. I saw him just as a silly little boy that when he told me he was going to marry me, I was like, yeah, not. But then God changed my heart and showed me that he was actually a good thing for me. So going on, it says, for I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. So basically he's going to make her forget everybody else that she was after. Like they're not even going to compare to him anymore. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth and will make them to lay down safely. So basically he's saying, I'm going to make this covenant with my people. I'm going to make this covenant with my bride that everything's going to be okay now. There's not going to be any more chaos. You're going to be into a place where you feel safe. You don't feel like you have to run anymore, or that you're going to be like torn or tattered by the world or its people. All right. And then it says, and I will betroth thee to me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness and in mercies. So he's saying like, I'm going to make you mine. And then it goes on, I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. So even though you've been unfaithful, I'm going to give you a new shot, and we're going to be faithful together. And it says, and it shall come to pass in the day, I will hear, saith the Lord, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, they are my God. So there comes this point when we realize that the love that God has for us, or that our spouse has for us, if our spouse is loving us from the heart of God, that we realize that we have everything that we need. God now takes from all of those things that seemed like they were being taken from us, and he now gives them back, but he gives them back to us when we go back where we're supposed to be. And I think about this a lot of times, and this has really helped me to not rely so much on people to be what I need. Because when I start seeing that there's a lack in something, or maybe a lack of desire, now I start asking God, what is it that you want to show me? Is it something that I've done? Is it something that someone else has done to me? Or is this just something that you want to show me because you have something better that you want for me? And, you know, a lot of times I will say that I know that some things have been taken from me because the enemy is a thief. But I also know that God allows those things for reasons, and he's been showing me that as well. So at the end of the day, I know that he's my provider. I know that he still takes care of me. You know, when my husband hasn't always done the things that I felt like a husband should do for me, God has always. And I'm thankful for that. It helps me to realize that my husband is not my everything. My God is, and my God uses my husband when my husband is willing to do what is necessary for me. But when people don't do those things that they're supposed to do, God does. So anyways, that's the end of chapter 2. I thank you for joining me. If you guys have any questions, maybe you guys want to ask some questions, or just kind of interact with me for a few minutes. And then if not, I'll just wrap it up. But I do see that people have joined. I wish it would show you like when they leave, so that you don't think that like everybody is still on here. It's very hard for me to tell if people are still on here until after the video. I don't see any comments, but I do see all the likes. Thank you very much for all of the likes. Wait a minute. Was that a comment? No. Okay. No, I'm still on. Okay. It doesn't look like I have any people asking any questions. So anyways, I love you guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys back for chapter 3 of Loving Those Who Are Unlovable. Bye. Now I'm done.